Hello friends, welcome to my channel Katha Manthan. Today I am going to tell you the story The Kabuliwala, written by Rabindranath Tagore. This story describes the character of a little girl and her various characteristics. You can find reference questions and summary from our website www.kathamanthan.com. So friends, let's start the story. My 5-year-old daughter Minnie is a chatty girl and likes to talk all day long. It took her about a year after being born to acquire the talent for language. And since then, she has not wasted a single wakeful moment of her life remaining silent. Often her mother chides to keep quiet, but I can never do that. Seeing the girl mute, even for an instant, seems so odd and unusual to me that I find it unbearable. That's why my conversation with Minnie is often feisty. One morning, as I had just started writing the 17th chapter of my novel, Minnie walked into the room and began, "Dad, our sanitary Ramdayal doesn't even know how to pronounce the word crow. He's so backward." Before I could begin to enlighten her on the difference between languages, she launched into her another topic. "See, Dad, Bhola was saying that when elephants lift water with their trunks and spray it from the sky, it rains. Dear, oh dear, Bhola can speak such nonsense. He can rant day and night without making any sense." Without waiting for my opinion on it, she asked me out of the blue, "Dad, who is mum to you?" "Sister-in-law," I thought to myself. "But Minnie," I replied, avoiding the complicated question, "you go and play with Bhola. I have some work now." At this, she flopped beside the writing table close to my feet and began to play a game knick-knack with her hands and knees, rapidly chanting a nursery rhyme. In the 17th chapter of my novel, Pratap Singh was jumping off the high balcony of jailhouse at this time with Kanchanmala into the river below in the dark of night. Stopping her game abruptly, Minnie ran to the window, which overlooked the main road, and began calling out at the top of her voice, "Kabuliwala! Oh Kabuliwala!" A tall, shabbily clothed Afghan street vendor with a turban on his head, a bag over his shoulder, and a few boxes of dry crepes in his hand was passing through the street slowly. I have no idea what flashed through my daughter's mind at the sight of this man. But the moment she saw him, she began yelling. I thought this nuisance with a sack over his shoulder will show up in a moment and I won't be able to finish writing the 17th chapter of my novel. But the moment the Kabuliwala, at hearing Minnie's call, turned round with a smile and approached the house. She dashed inside and couldn't be found anywhere. She had this childish fear that if someone looked through the back of this Afghan man, several living children like herself would be found in there. Meanwhile, the Kabuliwala stepped into the compound and stood at the door with a smile and an Islamic salute. I thought although the characters in my novel, Pratap Singh and Kanchanmala, were in dire straits, it would be unseemly to call the men all the way to the house and not buy anything. I bought a few items and soon I was involved in a rambling conversation with him on various topics, including Abdur Rahman, the Emir of Afghanistan, and the frontier policy of Russians and British. Finally, as he was about to leave the house, he asked, "Sir, where is your little girl?" To break Minnie's unfounded fear, I called her from inside the house. She came and stood nervously, pressing her against my body and looking suspiciously at the Kabuliwala and his bag. The Kabuliwala took out some raisins and apricots from inside the bag and gave it to Minnie, but she refused to take them and remained pressed against my knees with a redoubled suspicion. That was how their first meeting ended. A few days later, as I was leaving the house in the morning for some important work, I saw my tiny daughter sitting on the bench next to the door and speaking non-stop with the Kabuliwala, who was parked next to her feet and listening to her with a grin and interjecting now and then in broken Bengali to give his opinion. In her short 5-year life, Minnie had never found a more intent listener before other than her father. I also noticed that she had lots of nuts and raisins tied up at the loose end of her small sari. Upon discovering this, I asked the Kabuliwala, "Why did you give all these to her? Please don't do it again." With that, I took out a half-a-rupee coin and gave it to him. The Kabuliwala took the money without any hesitation and put it in his bag. On returning home, I found that a full-scale row had broken out over the coin. Holding the white, round, shining piece of metal in her hand, Minnie's mother asked her in a rebuking tone, "Where did you get the coin?" Minnie replied, "The Kabuliwala gave it to me." Her mother chided, "Why did you take it from him?" Minnie answered sobbingly, "I didn't ask it for her. He gave it on his own." I stepped in to rescue Minnie and took her out for a walk. I learned that this was not her second meeting with the Kabuliwala. He had been visiting Minnie almost daily, and by offering her pistachio nuts, he had already won a large part of the girl's childish heart. The two friends had a few stock phrases and jokes which were repeated on their conversation. For example, the moment she saw Rahmat, my daughter would ask with a hearty laugh, "Kabuliwala? Oh, Kabuliwala, what is in your sack?" Adding an unnecessary nasal tone to the word, Rahmat would roar, "Hati!" The essence of the joke was that the man had an elephant in his sack. Not that the joke was very witty, but it caused the two friends to double up in laughter. And the sight of that innocent joy between a girl and a grown man on autumn mornings used to move me deeply. Another routine exchange between the two was whenever they met, Rahmat would tell the girl in his characteristic thick accent, "Mizi, you should never go into the in-laws." Bengali girls were commonly familiar with the term in-laws practically since birth, but being more modern, we chose not to load our daughter's mind with precocious thoughts at such a tender age. That was why Minnie could never fully understand Rahmat's advice. But to keep quiet and not respond to a statement was contrary to Minnie's nature. Therefore, tuning the phrase into a question, she would ask, "Will you go to your in-laws?" Making a huge feast with his hand, Rahmat would pretend to punch at his imaginary in-law and say, "I will wallop my in-law." Thinking of the plight of the unknown creature called father-in-law, Minnie would explode into laughter. It was still early autumn, that time of year when kings in ancient days used to go out on conquest. Personally, I have never been away from Kolkata, which is why my mind always wanders around the world. I am like an exile in my own home, as my mind constantly likes to travel to other places. The moment I hear the name of foreign country, my mind longs to visit that unknown place. Likewise, the sight of an alien person brings to mind the image of a lonely hut beside a river in the midst of forest, and I begin to imagine an autonomous, exultant way of life. Yet I am so dull and inert that every time I think of travelling out of my little world, I panic That's why I used to mitigate my desire for traveling a little by talking to this man from Kabul in the morning, sitting in front of my writing table in my little room. The Kabuliwala bled out stories of his homeland in his broken Bengali, and I fancied it all before my eyes tall, rugged, impassable mountains on two sides, red hot with torrid heat, and a caravan moving through the narrow, dusty passageway in between turbaned traders and travellers passing by, some on camelback, others on foot, some carrying spears and others outdated flintstone guns. Minnie's mother is naturally a timid person. Whenever she hears a slight noise from the street, she thinks all the tipplers of the world are rushing together towards our house. After living for so many years in this world, though not many, she has still not been able to temper her fear that the world is full of all kinds of horrors, thieves, robbers, drunkards, snakes, tigers, malaria, cockroaches, and European soldiers. She was not fear. She was not free of suspicion about the Kabuliwala. Rahmat and nagged to me to keep a watchful eye on him. Whenever I sought to make light of her suspicions, she asked me a few pointed questions. Are there no much instances of child abduction? Isn't slave trade still in practice in Afghanistan? Is it altogether impossible for a giant Afghan to kidnap a little child? I had to agree that those were not impossible, but were not improbable. However, not everyone has the same capacity for trust, so my wife remained suspicious of the men. But I couldn't stop Rahmat from visiting the house either because he had not done anything wrong. Every year in January or February, Rahmat would go back to his mother country to visit his family. A money lender, he was unusually busy during this period collecting dues from his clients before the trip. He had to rush from house to house to raise the collectivities. And yet he found time to visit Minnie. It appeared as if the two were involved in a mischievous plot. The day he couldn't come in the morning, he came in the evening. To see the huge Afghan sitting in the corner of the house in the dark of evening in his baggy clothes and customary sack would create a sudden fear in my mind. But the moment I saw Minnie rushing out of the house and greeting her friend, Kabuliwala, oh Kabuliwala, and the chumps of incompatible airs engaging in their familiar bantering and innocent laughter, my heart would fill with delight. One morning I was sitting in my room and reading some proofs. It was the end of winter, but for the last few days before the season came to a close, the temperature was freezing and almost unbearable. I was enjoying the warmth of a strip of morning sun that had alighted on my feet under the table, traveling through the glass window. It was about 8 o'clock. Most of the early risers had finished their morning walk with their necks wrapped in their scarves and returned home. Just then I heard some commotion in the street. Looking out, I saw our Rahmat in handcuffs, escorted by two policemen. The whole host of street urchins trailing after them. There were marks of blood on Rahmat's clothes, and a policeman was carrying a blood-stained knife. I stepped out and accosted the policeman, demanding to know what was going on. Putting together details from Rahmat as well as policemen, I understood that one of our neighbors was indebted to Rahmat for a Rampuri shawl, and when the man denied his debt, an argument broke out between them. In the heat of the argument, Rahmat took out a knife and stabbed the man. Rahmat was in the midst of hurling abuse in obscene language at the dishonest men when Minnie came running out of the house shouting, Kabuliwala, oh Kabuliwala! In a flash, Rahmat's face was filled with expressions of happiness. Since he didn't have the sling bag over his shoulder that day, their usual exchange on the subject could not take place. So Minnie asked him straight off, "Will you be going to your in-laws' house?" "That's exactly where I am going," Rahmat replied with a laugh. When he noticed that Minnie did not find the answer quite amusing, he pointed to his hands and added in his heavily accented patchy Bengali, "I would have beaten up in the in-law, but what can I do? My hands are tied up." Charged with grievous injury, Rahmat was sent for jail to several years. We almost forget about him. Living our days through our daily routines in the security of our home, it never occurred to us once how this free-spirited man from the mountains was spending his years within the secluded walls of the jail. And the way Minnie's inconstant little heart behaved was embarrassing even to her father. She easily forgot her old friend and found a new one in Nabi, besides. Then, as she continued to grow up, she replaced all her elderly male friends, one after another, with girls of her own age. She was hardly to be seen in her father's studio. In a way, I had almost ended all friendship with her. Several years passed. It was autumn again. Minnie's wedding match had been fixed. She was to get married during the Puja holidays. This event will take the joy of our household to her in-laws' house, leaving us in the darkness. It was a sunny, resplendent morning. The rain-washed sun of early autumn took the hue of pure gold. Its brilliance made even the dingy, run-down brick house in the inner lanes of the Kolkata look beautiful. The wedding music had started playing in the house since dawn. Even note of that music seemed to come right from my ribcage in a sobbing tune and spread the sorrow of an impending farewell to the world, mixing itself with radiant shafts of autumnal sun. My Minnie was to get married that day. There was lot of hubbub in the house since visitors were continually loitering in and out. A tent was being put up on the bamboo poles in the courtyard of the house, and the chimes of chandeliers being reached in the portico of every room filled the air. There was no end to the rumpus. I was going through the wedding accounts in my study when suddenly Rahmat walked into the room and stood before me with a salam. I was going through the wedding accounts in my study when suddenly Rahmat walked into the room and stood before me with a salam. At first, I couldn't recognize him. He didn't have that customary sack with him, or the long hair and his burly look. Finally, I recognized him through his smile. I asked him, "Hello, Rahmat, how long have you been back?" "I was released from jail last evening," he replied. The words gave me a sudden jolt. I had never seen a homicide before me, so my heart flinched at the sight of the man. I wished he would leave the house immediately on this auspicious day. I said, "We have a wedding in the house today, and I am quite busy. It is better for you to go now." At that, he began to leave the house, but as he reached the door, he turned back in hesitation and asked in a faltering tone, "Can't I see the girl for a moment?" Perhaps he was convinced that Minnie was still the same little girl and would come out of the house running to greet him, "Kabuliwala, oh Kabuliwala," as in the past. Their happy, playful relationship of old had remained unchanged. Remembering their past friendship, he had even bought a box of grapes and a few raisins wrapped in a packet, which he must have borrowed from some Afghan friend because his customary sack was not there with him. I said once again, "There is a festivity in the house today. It won't be possible to see anyone at this time." He looked little hurt by the statement and stood stupefied for a time, gazing at me with a fixed look. Then he walked out of the room abruptly with a simple bye. I felt remorseful and thought I should call him back, but right then I saw him turning around. Standing close to me, he said, "I brought these grapes and raisins for the little girl. Hope you don't mind giving it to her." I took the fruits from him and was about to pay some money when he grabbed me by the hand and said, "You are a generous man, sir. I will never forget your kindness. But please don't pay me for these fruits. Just as you have a daughter, I too have one. Back home, it is remembering her face that I bring these gifts for your child. I don't come here for business." With that, he shoved his hand inside his huge baggy shirt and brought out a grimy piece of paper from somewhere close to his chest. Unfolding it very carefully, he laid the paper on the table. I could see the impression of a very small hand on it. Not a photograph, not a painting, but the trace of a tiny hand created with burnt charcoal, daubed on the palm. Every year Rahmat come to peddle merchandise on the streets of Kolkata, carrying that memorable of his daughter in his pocket, as if the soft touch of that little hand kept his huge lonely heart fed with love and happiness. My eyes filled with tears at the sight of that piece of paper. It no longer mattered to me that he was food an ordinary fruit peddler from Kabul and I belonged to an aristocratic Bengali family. In the moment, I realized that we were both just the same. He was a father, and so was I. The print of this mountain dwelling daughter's hand reminded me of my own Minnie. I sent word for her to come out to the study immediately. Many of the women objected, but I paid no heed. In her bridal dress and ceremonial makeup, Minnie came out from the inner quarters and stood beside my collie. The Kabuliwala saw Minnie and became confused. Their good-natured humor of old also didn't work out. In the end, with a smile, he asked, "Girl, are you going to the in-laws' house?" Minnie now understood what in-law meant, so she couldn't answer the way she did in the past. Rather, hearing the question from Rahmat, her face became purple in shame, and she abruptly turned around and left. This brought back memories of their first meeting, and I felt an ache in my heart. Soon after, Minnie left Rahmat sloshed on the floor with a long, deep sigh. It became obvious to him that his own daughter had grown up as well, and he would have to get to her, know her all over again. She would not be the same girl he had left behind. He was not even sure what might have happened to her in the past 8 years. The wedding music continued to play softly in the courtyard on the autumnal sunny morning, and sitting there on the floor of my house in an alley in the Kolkata, Rahmat continued to envision the images of the arid hilly terrains of Afghanistan. I took out some money and gave it to him. "You go back to your daughter in Afghanistan, Rahmat, and may the happiness of your union bring blessing for my Minnie too," I said. I had to cut out 1 or 2 items of eclat of the festivities for gifting that money. For example, the lighting decoration was not so gorgeous as I had it to be, and the band party had to be cancelled. This upset the women, but by benevolent spirit, my auspicious ceremony became more luminous. Thank you, friends. Thank you for listening to the story. Please go to our website www.kathamantran.com for reference questions and answers and summaries. Thank you, friends. Thank you for watching the channel.